Alright, you asked for it and I'm making the video, the comparison between Sunsama and Todoist. And those tools couldn't be more different. That's not a versus, it is why you use one and the other. I will break this video down into different parts. First, we will go to the website of these two tools and think about the wording they have on their website. Then we will zoom out and look at the big picture, how tools fit into our productivity system, into our productivity tool stack. And then we will zoom into Todoist and Sunsama. I show you my personal setup there, so you see how they are actually used in action. And after this video, you understand the difference of a task manager, a planner application, and a calendar application. Let's dive in. I just want to point out a few things here. Todoist claims to organize your work and life finally. And that's a big statement. Todoist was always amazing because they focused on one thing, being the best task manager application out there. I've been using Todoist 12 years ago together with Evernote. Back then I had to organize myself, my personal tasks. In fact, I was working in multiple projects globally and different stakeholders. So I had to have one list to get everything together so I can organize myself. And that's what many people do. They use a piece of paper, write down the most important task they need to complete this week. And that's the task that gives them the focus for this week. I talked to the founder of Todoist on this channel years back, and we've been joking about ClickUp because ClickUp was adding so many different features and trying to cover it all, and nothing was working properly, while Todoist was highly refined.
If I look at like ClickUp, I'm just like, I would never use this myself. And same like with Monday.com. And then they keep adding stuff. Like, it's not like they stop and say, okay, like, maybe we should just like be opinionated here. No, let's add more stuff.
Now we're entering 2025 and it seems they're changing a bit their approach because now they're opening up even more team features. They go more into the project management part. They implemented the calendar view, as you can see here, right? And this is something that we don't recommend to do, adding the tasks to your calendar. This might work if you just have a few tasks, but the moment volume hits, these systems don't work. You just keep managing your productivity system instead of actually doing your work. And that's why this approach doesn't work. You probably understand after this video why Sunsama will help in a much better way in this regards. Because now they say a home for your team's tasks. In my opinion, this would be too limited. If you do proper project management and team management and so on, if you have very simple things to do, maybe it's really important to understand your use case and then pick the correct tools. They claim to be task management, and they are, but then they say project management, and now they're going into time management and teamwork. These are all heavy productivity areas. And that worries us a lot when we go to other tools like, let's go to ClickUp's website. And when you're on ClickUp, you go to product, look at this. Knowledge management, wikis, docs, collaboration, whiteboards. They claim all these things. But in fact, there are so many things out there that just are more specialized in documentation and in these things like whiteboards and so on. That yes, they can do some sort of this, but should you use these features? When we think about CRMs and so on, there are dedicated solutions for this. We are using ClickUp and we are using a lot of these solutions inside there too. And we can live with the drawbacks compared to other tools, because when it comes to this, Notion is still better. Docs, wikis and all these things. But we want to have a consolidated place where everybody can go and find everything, and that's why we live with the restrictions. I just want to point out here that no matter what website you go to, you won't get the answer what this tool is used for, and they will always claim to be the solution for everything. This is just not true. There's no all-in-one application out there, except our ICOR framework, which is the one app to rule them all, and the only thing this application is doing is giving you the overview of your tools. That's it. That's why we call it this way. But let's go to Sunsama, alright? What do they say? Make work-life balance a reality. Let's go to organize your work and life finally. It is two different things, because here they say it, the digital daily planner that helps you feel calm and stay focused. They focused on planning, and we started worrying when we saw the announcement from Sunsama that they're now improving their task management capabilities inside Sunsama. Again, it's the same thing. Todoist is specialized in task management, and Sunsama is not. And there's no problem with using both tools together. And you will see in a moment why this matters. When we go to features, we see guided daily planning, unified daily view, realistic daily goals, time boxing. There is focus on time, and that's great. And I hope they will stay this way. While in Todoist, they go much further. Simple project management. They sell their simplicity, and that might work, but life, and especially work life, is not as simple, especially if you have complex projects. If you go to project fitness and say, do 30 minutes of yoga, renewed gym membership, and then you say, this is a project management for team collaboration, it's not reflecting. You can use it for personal project management, and that's where you will bring up these things. Also, this is rather a routine instead of a project. Now, let's zoom out and let's see the big picture. I think this will already clarify a lot. All right, here we are back on our ICOR framework, and let's just focus on the personal part. First, quickly, let's bring the apps in again, so we are all in the same picture. We differentiate between personal knowledge management and personal project management. Clearly, Todoist is for personal project management, and Sunsama many people place here too, and that's where the confusion starts, because now you think about, where should I place my tasks? I'm using both. I'm aware that Sunsama actually is hooking into Todoist. I'm adding the tasks in Todoist and make them visible in Sunsama. So you may say, why does this make sense? Well, it makes sense that I already have a different way to plan out these tasks that I have in here against my calendar, and that's what people forget, that they actually have a calendar. In my case, it's Google Calendar. In your case, it might be Outlook Calendar. So both come together. So now I have already one place where this information comes together. Now you may say, well, but Todoist has the calendar integration now. Isn't Sunsama redundant? Well, you will see in a moment when we go into the tools what the big difference is here, and why Sunsama still succeeds as a planner application versus Todoist succeeds as a task manager. The Google Calendar as your calendar. Now we have also Gmail. So Gmail is your emails, and you might have actions in there that some others recommend move all the actions into your task management system. So no, either we already work through the inbox and complete the actions inside the email, and we have an email management like a pro course in our membership. There we perfectly explain the triage workflow and what you can do inside email alone before even moving to another app. However, we can hook it up with Sunsama too. And now we have already 3 different single source of truth for the dedicated informations. A single source of truth for our action tasks, a single source of truth for our meetings and events, and a single source of truth for our emails, which can contain information and action combined. And if there is any action going on, there's a functionality that when I star an email inside my email client, I can show it up inside Sunsama. And now let's add the overall view and think about BPM2, the business project management. That's where we're using ClickUp. In fact, we are using it even for BKM, the business knowledge management. That's why we place it here instead of Notion. So we would have here ClickUp, and let's bring in Notion too. That would be a setup too. So only the knowledge management for the team is in Notion and the action is in ClickUp. That was the setup actually previously. And then we decided it's confusing for the team. We are paying double the price, and let's forget about the superpowers when it comes to knowledge. What we need is enough in ClickUp for the business knowledge management part. Let's move this here and let's remove Notion. However, ClickUp also hooks into Sunsama, and now you see maybe already the advantage of using Sunsama as a planner application, because I have scattered actions all over the place. You might not even be aware, and that's why we say always be careful when you're using something like Apple Notes and so on, which is a note-taking, not even personal knowledge management in my opinion, and you start adding actions there, it moves into this category, and it's an overlap. And then how do you manage these actions? If you have more actions all over the place, all these things are very easy to do without volume. But the moment volume comes into place, you start struggling to get the bird's eye view of all the things that are going on and to narrow it down to a simple task list that I mentioned in the beginning, which is just a piece of paper with a list of actions. And in this case, we will have the piece of paper with the actions inside Sunsama, as I will show you now. All right, here we are inside my Sunsama now, and it looks pretty empty. Well, I removed all the things so I can show you how I plan out a week. According to ICOR, we have weekly planning. There's a weekly goal that we want to achieve every week, which usually are 5 weekly goals we want to achieve. We say weekly goal, but what we mean is a list of tasks. These tasks we want to complete this week. And as I said, these can be scattered in different tools. And that's where we bring everything together now in Sunsama. And that's where the superpower of Sunsama comes in, because now I have here access to my Todoist, to my email, to my ClickUp, to reminders and Google Tasks, many more that you can hook in. But I personally mainly only use Todoist, Gmail and ClickUp. That's all. And the calendar, obviously, because now I have the direct comparison. But I don't even need to open the calendar because I see the events coming up on Sunsama too. Well, in my corporate life, when I was working in a 300,000 employee company and working in multiple projects globally, this looked different. I had back-to-back meetings and all these things, and I had to organize myself. And I was using Todoist. And back then there was no Sunsama or planner application. There was just Todoist. And then Todoist had a direct connection to the calendar. But the problem was, it was managing my calendar, and I had meetings showing up inside Todoist, which was great to see. There was a two-way synchronization, and my tasks showing up on a calendar. I was able to plan out things on a calendar, but this was destructive. And you will see in a moment what this means with Sunsama, right? This means it was directly interacting with my meetings on my calendar, and that worst case scenario actually appeared. I was in a meeting, global meeting. It was a Google Meet call with hundreds of people in there. And Todoist, after I moved things around, or I think I checked it off there, it deleted this recurring event because I was one of the admins of the event for all these people. This is the moment where I realized it's 12 years ago when this happened. And this makes you really clear that you might do things rather manually and have more control over it than having just an automation running in backend without even knowing what is going on. And that's why I don't believe in tools like Motion and so on that claim that AI will manage your calendar. And I think it's even more crazy to think about that it's managing the team's calendar and moving task due dates of the project back and forth depending on the gaps that you have in the calendar. I think it's total nonsense. If you need something like that and you just trust blindly on AI, it shows that you have no proper project structure in the first place and you have no plan what's going on, because usually you just need to work in a sequential order on the most important tasks that you have to do in these projects. And the lack of clarity is due to the lack of consolidating all the information into one place. And that's what we do here in Sunsama. Okay, we are in Sunsama here. What's the difference now between what I told you about the connection of Todoist with calendar and these connections here? Well, if you go to here for Todoist, that's something personal, for example. You see it goes in my private life, but there might be also tasks coming up from the business. Let's go quickly to Todoist actually to show you this. You see, there's just a few tasks in here. There's not much going on right now as I finished most of them. But it is based on our My Life concept. These are my key elements in my life. We teach it inside the membership in the ICOR methodology. We split it into key elements of finances, family, health, and paperless movement. That's the business. That makes it very easy to control. For me, as the founder and having the only business paperless movement right now, the main work lives here in ClickUp. And that's where I have now access to this. Let's say I want to plan out my personal work like this. I just drag it into here and I say, okay, I have this meeting here. You have my afternoon routine. Let's place it here. After the afternoon routine here, I will do it. And then I can go to ClickUp and plan out my week this way. And I say differences, Todoist versus Sunsama. Hey, that's the thing that we are doing right now. This is today. Let's go to today. That's this Wednesday. I will just move it there. I would have done this prior because that's how I plan out to make the video. But for the showcase here, I'm doing it live now. Okay. Here now you see, today I planned out to make this video. Obviously in my job description right now, this is the highest priority and therefore this is a weekly goal. So that's what Sunsama allows you. You can have these weekly objectives they call here, and it is so easy. You can click on this task and then you say to the 3 dots and say align with objective, or you just hover and hit R and then you can align it with an objective. Beauty is if there is no objective, you can create one out of the task. When I do this, it's now in my weekly objectives. This is a weekly goal. I need to complete this because that's the highest priority. So this allows you to perfectly plan unexpected events or anything that comes during the week against what was actually planned and what you gave the highest priority, because this one, that's optional. If I have no time, I move it to the next week. And you see, there's already a list building up on Monday. And that's what's happening on Monday. I plan out the rest of the week. We have the agenda. I'm going into too much detail what the ICOR methodology actually teaches you in organizing yourself during the week. If you want to learn more about this, let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to dive deeper into the specific planning, the way I'm doing the weekly planning and so on. But today we'll focus on the difference between Todoist and Sunsama, and therefore let's stay focused on that too. I have my weekly objectives. Now I can add even more weekly objectives for the rest of the weeks, recording all the previous videos that we have. Okay, let's do this tomorrow. But now you see perfectly, I don't even need to open a calendar because based on this here, it gives me a timing. Okay, that's an estimate timing for the day. And these things are actual meetings that I have and I need to attend them. It's non-negotiable. And you see here always the icon from what application this is coming from. And that's really useful. And here I see that's the connection to ClickUp. And let's move this in as well. And I know these are 3 things that I would do in a row. That's the personal planning. You know what's going on with these tasks. But I don't need to have all the details. How do I record the preview video? Well, that's the great thing. It's connected to my single source of truth for this. And I just have one click and it opens up ClickUp and it opens up the task with all the details that I need in order to create this goal. And you see here, due date 2 days ago, because it was set for Monday. In order to organize this, I just set these things inside ClickUp for the Monday and I organize it in here. I don't care if it is overdue on ClickUp because this is where I'm doing the actual planning. So there's no two-way synchronization, at least I'm not setting it up this way, to update the due dates in ClickUp, to not confuse people on ClickUp. As I just said, I rather have it manually set up and move the things manually forward inside ClickUp due to the additional layer of control that I have this way. And then this one, this is something that we published yesterday. That is something where I showed you the simplest productivity setup that you can have. And in fact, the working title was something different. It was actually the simplest project management setup 2025 that scales. Well, there's a different title now. And you see, when I move it here, it tells me the status that this is in. And in fact, it's already published. However, like for this one, usually I would have planned this out already here. When do I record this and so on? Because now the beauty is I can have a due date in ClickUp that might be next week, but I can add it here to plan it out and to work on this task over time. And now we come into this non-destructive thing. I can go here and add notes. I can change the title. I can do many things. I can even duplicate the thing, right click and then duplicate or Command D. And now I have twice the task here. If I say, okay, I need 2 days in order to make this video. And the beauty is inside ClickUp, it just remains the same thing. I'm doing my planning here in the way I need it to be done. And it is not affecting the final destination and single source of truth. And that's the powerful thing about this tool. Now I have a simple task list for each day I need to do. Let's say something unexpected is coming in and now I perfectly know, okay, there I have already a lot on my plate. I need to do this and that's not negotiable because all this is actually a weekly goal. See, now I created a weekly goal on the fly and now I can connect the others to the same weekly goal. And now you see here, all these 3 tasks are assigned to the weekly goal. And now we have 2 weekly goals I need to work on this week. This gives so much clarity, especially because it's a consolidated place. Let's go to the email. Are there any new start emails? Let's see. All right. Oh, look this. We finally get Lazy Access. If you followed us over a year ago, I made a video about the tool Lazy, and now we get access. I cannot wait to test it out. Let's see, that might be another video. If you haven't subscribed yet, that's the moment to subscribe and you're interested in me finally testing Lazy. I want to test this as soon as possible. Man, I really want to do this. Do we really need to make these preview videos now? Because I really would love to make the video for you guys as soon as possible. So let's make it a weekly goal. Move these things over. You see how I'm organizing my things on the fly without going to the different applications. And that's key. And now let's go back to Todoist. They have a to-do view. They have an upcoming view for the things. I can add this to my calendar. Look how empty my calendar looks. You're not a busy professional because your calendar is not completely stuffed. I know what it is. Working 16 hours in big corporate and the calendar is full with meetings, even 6 days a week, because we worked globally in big projects, back-to-back meetings and so many accountabilities. I know what it looks like. But in fact, this gives me clarity about what my commitments are. That's non-negotiable what I have here. And you see the main meeting I have here is with Paco in the beginning. And then the others are private things, or then the discovery calls with my members, mainly in the evening, because the core audience, the main members are from America. And so therefore the main meetings happening in the evenings in Germany. And that's it. To me, this is easy to look at my calendar and know, okay, here I really need to be available. I need to be here in the studio for these meetings. And now, where are my ClickUp things? I can connect with third-party content, going to integrations and try to get my ClickUp tasks in here as well and make my consolidated view. And then you have something like the new board view, you know, and then you can move things around this way. So you see already, now I have to move to focus, and now I change this to a different date and make it today, move it into my upcoming thing. Let's go to upcoming. Okay, it's now coming up here because I changed the due date, and now I can move things around. But it's not made for this. It is made for proper task prioritization and not planning, in my opinion. And especially for the reason that I showed you here, to bring in all these things. I mentioned in a video in the beginning that I worry that they talk about adding more task management features. And that really worries me, because we always say never use Sunsama as a task manager. It's not a task manager. It's a planner application. We even reached out to Sunsama and say, you should rename this into add item or time item or something like that instead of task, because people get confused and start adding tasks here, right? And then you do the same thing as you would do adding it to a calendar. Now the task only lives here. And if I want to have this removed from here, the only way I can do is move it to backlog. Now it's off, but now I just have a list of tasks. What happens now is that there's an infinite list in your backlog, and that's what I want to work on and improve. However, it will never get to a point like Todoist or a proper project management tool like ClickUp. That's why the high-level planning needs to happen in your task manager, in your project manager, in your Gmail, and then you have the things that are prioritized on all the different places, and only those priorities show now up here on the side. That makes it easy for you to plan out, and that makes it so easier to plan out the week. I covered a lot of ground with this video when it comes to comparing task managers with planners, with calendars in general. I hope you get the differences now, and the difference between Todoist and Sunsama. If you want to compare Sunsama with anything else, then you might want to compare it with ICOR. ICOR didn't allow the easy planning as we do it in here. That's why we all stick to Sunsama. And I know many of our members love Sunsama for this clarity that I just demonstrated here. Let us know in the comments below if you can agree with this, or let me know the other setup that you have, because it's all about your personal productivity setup. And this is all really already going deep into the ICOR methodology and planning out your productivity system end to end. If you really want to learn it from the ground up, I highly recommend to join us for free inside the membership and get started with the ICOR journey there. We also have a productivity system check in there that's free, that shows you the exact level of your productivity system, where it is. Join us inside the free community, and I catch you up in there or inside the next video if you subscribe to the channel.